on to the Town of Wakefield Board of Appeals meeting for Wednesday, April 10th. Reminding that the meeting is being recorded. It'll be available on the town website in a few days. I'm going to start by taking a roll call for members. Chip Tarbell.
Here.
Joe Pride.
Here.
Dave Hatfield.
Here.
Mickey Feely.
Here.
Greg McIntosh.
Here.
Kasumi Humphreys.
Yeah.
And my name's Tom Lucy, and obviously I am here. And with that, I'm going to ask our clerk, Joe Pride, to read the legal notice.
Sure thing. Consistent with the governor's orders extending certain provisions of the open meeting law, every effort will be made to allow the public to view and or listen to this meeting in real time. If you do not have a camera or microphone on your computer, you may use the following and dial in number 1-301-715-8592. Meeting ID 874-3448-0227, passcode 396777. Please use only dial-in or computer and not both. As audio feedback will distort the meeting, this meeting will be audio and video recorded. In compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, this location is accessible to people with disabilities. Wakefield provides reasonable accommodations and all language assistance free of charge upon request. If you're a person with a disability and require information or materials in an alternate format, or if you require any other accommodations, please contact the town's disability coordinator, William Renault, town engineer, at 781-246-6308. As far in advance of the event as possible, every effort will be made to grant your requests. Advance notification will enable the town to make reasonable arrangements to remove an accessibility barrier for you. 1. Continued hearings. 2. 24-40. Danielle M. Luger and Michael J. Luger, application for a special permit under Article 4, Section 190-22A1F of the Wakefield zoning bylaw to add an accessory apartment to a single-family dwelling. The property is shown as map 40C, lot parcel 026 of the assessor's map, and is located at 26 Pheasant Wood Drive. Board of Appeals.
Thank you, Joe. Much appreciated. First up is continued hearings, and the first hearing on that list is case 2410, the residence at Nahant LLC. This is the comprehensive permit pursuant to MGL 40B, located 119 Nahant Street. I'm in receipt of a letter from Attorney Panos dated today. It's fairly lengthy, so I'm going to give you highlights. He acknowledges that they met with the Traffic Advisory Committee on April 5th, which was last Friday. They have a new engineering firm, the Moore and Cameron Group, is now working with them on site plan revisions, which will include a revised internal parking and traffic circulation plan, revised landscaping lighting plan, and a schematic utility plan we intend to present to the board at a scheduled meeting on May 8th, 2024. They're going to continue to work on redesign concepts addressing height and massing concerns raised by the board that was presented to us at our subcommittee meeting on the 11th and then at the meeting of the full board on March 13th. The redesign is being adjusted consistent with the revisions to the site plan. No changes to the traffic impact assessment submitted to the board and under review by TAC are contemplated as a result of the redesign previously requested by the board. Accordingly, he is requesting that the matter be continued to the board scheduled meeting on May 8th, 2024. Also, in accordance with 760 CMR 56.053, the ZBA hearing shall not extend 180 days from the date of the opening of the hearing, except with written consent of the applicant. The applicant agrees to extend the time the BZA must close its hearing on the above matter through August 7th, 2024, resulting from the applicant's 28 days continuance request hereof. Before we close that out, I do want to just say a few words, and I'm going to ask someone to make a motion to continue. I attended the hearing, the TAC meeting on April 5th, which was Friday morning. that committee is not done with its analysis of their traffic study. There's a lot of concerns that came out both from, I voiced the concerns from the notes that we have put together as a board. Each of the subject matter experts from the town, Bill Renault from DPW, Chief Sullivan from the fire department, and Lieutenant Anderson, Wakefield PD, also expressed a lot of concerns about not only the trip generation with 412 trips on a daily basis coming and going from the site. They're very concerned about sight lines. They're very concerned about the fact that the current proposal is 20 spaces short of the Wakefield ordinance. They're presenting other material from different state agencies about the number of parking that they think that needs to be there. But it was in unison that myself, both Chief Sullivan, Lieutenant Anderson, Bill Renault have a lot of concerns about the number of parking spaces. We don't have an accurate site plan, so Chief Sullivan's not done looking at the proposal. He's very concerned about the width of the driveways, the elevation changes in the parking lot. So we still have a lot of work. That committee has a lot of work to do with the development team. So we're not going to have a memo from them. We're not going to be ready to do a full meeting at our board with those folks too, which has always been our intent. So, Greg, I saw you were on that meeting. Do you want to add anything that I missed?
No, I think that's a good summary. I think most of the concerns were in the area of fundamental or basic safety around the project. It wasn't just hey, these are the best practices and you're not following the best practices. It was true safety for not just even the surrounding area, but seemingly for the people coming into and leaving the project. So of the TAC meetings I've gone to, which admittedly I haven't gone to every one for projects that have been in front of us, but gone to quite a few, and I haven't heard this much consternation about any single project in the time I've been going to them.
Yeah. Also, of another note, to finally have Bill Renault, Lieutenant Anderson, and myself in the same meeting, the position that the development team took, that the delay in this traffic study was done to accommodate the town. That was not true. And we certainly shared our feelings about that with the attorney for that project. So we didn't get, for whatever reason, we didn't get a straight story there, whether it was intentional or not. We didn't get a real straight story with that. So that, as you know, has been a source of frustration for this, well, for me and this board, I think, as well. So with that, I don't.
I just have
yeah. Go
before
ahead.
you make a motion, I just wanted to ask a question, or maybe even it's just a statement. And I guess the only reason I'm making it again is my time is sort of coming to an end here in this project. So I just wanted to. It's completely unacceptable the way this is moving forward. I know that they're redesigning the project, and I appreciate that, and I understand that takes a while. But as we said in the last meeting, there's other topics. How many times have we asked for simple bios of the development team, and we haven't received anything? Where every other 40B, those have been in our initial packet that's come to our front doors. Chip asked for those in meeting 1 or 2, and the Attorney Panos isn't doing his client any favors here. I would rather, if the client's not willing to provide those, then state so and move on. It's reasonably requested information that I think this board should be handed from the get-go. If the sort of beating around the bush and telling us over a month ago, I think you said the meeting that they last attended was March 13th. I watched it before last meeting, and he affirmatively said, Attorney Panos affirmatively said they would bring that information to us. And yet here we are a month later, and he can't even tell us who his team is. It's just completely unacceptable. It's sort of, as a fellow lawyer, it just drives me insane. It just, I don't even know how this is continuing for months after months. If hopefully he watches this and he can come at least with a straight answer, even if that straight answer is my client's not willing to provide that information.
Well, there isn't, if you look at the Secretary of State's website, you see that there is a manager. I don't have it in front of me, but
yeah, but that manager could be is likely another lawyer at Attorney Panos's firm that you and I know. A manager is anybody, and you file the annual statement with the secretary. It has nothing to do with the development team.
But it should have been part of his application for a project eligibility letter from EOHLC, Executive Office for Housing and Livable Communities. So he's got it. It sounds like maybe it's changing, or people are in his development team that he would have had the engineer in there. So maybe he had to wipe out the whole thing. But I don't know. Right now, he's just talking to the wind. It's Attorney Panos and nobody else. We don't have an engineer. We don't have it boggles my mind too, Greg. He extended the time a little bit, but how many meetings have we had? This is 5, 6. And he's yet to present anything of any substance whatsoever that can be even dealt with. I don't know really where to go from here. It would have been easy to give us a one-pager. He's probably, if he has a project eligibility letter, he already has one. I'm baffled. And
Dave, and I go ahead, Mick. Sorry.
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
And Dave, I see your hand, but just to fine tune this point, Greg, to your point, if you read his application, they make the representation that they have a very experienced development team. It's in the booklet that they filed with us. And that's why when Chip asked it, I continue to ask it. I've started to document all the failures of responses, so we have them. I'm going to kind of wait for him to be here to present them to him. And let's see what he comes up with on that.
And this has gone way past unprofessional at this point.
I agree. And our board has a practice of, if your material isn't in Friday, we don't take it up at the Wednesday meeting. We get his continuance hearings Wednesday afternoon of our meetings, sometime after 2:00. So we have no idea what's going on with this until that letter arrives and he sends it to Gail and myself. So I can't even tell you Wednesday morning if he's going to show up the night of these hearings. So Dave, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Mr. Chair, I think I would want to caution the board how far we want to take this conversation. We should cut it short. They're not here. They've asked us to continue the hearing. We should not be deliberating this matter in their absence. I think we just need to be careful.
I don't hear deliberations. I hear concerns about lack of response, which to me is different from a deliberation. So
I understand, but we've already
having
raised
brought
those.
that up.
We raised them in the last hearing, and I don't know, other than the TAC update, I just don't hear anything new. So that's all. I don't want
to. Dave, I think they need to be documented for every purpose, both from and document by recording at every single meeting he doesn't show up to, knowing how the Housing Appeals Committee works.
Fair enough.
Just leave it at that.
Just putting it out there. I just want us to be careful how far we go with this.
No, and appreciate.
Agree with documenting everything, Tom. I already shared that with you. We've shared it. Yes, we should be documenting everything as we go along here. So I totally agree with that and bringing it out here. Appreciate the TAC update. One question: did they schedule the next TAC hearing?
No, I have an email into Lieutenant Anderson. As soon as I find out, I'll share that with the board.
Okay. So they've moved.
And Dave, I do appreciate your perspective as an experienced member of the board. So thank you. With that, any other comments, questions before we move to continue? And once again, he's asked for a continuance into the May 8th meeting, and they've extended the deadline to August 7th, 2024.
Just a quick question. What happens if we don't continue?
Well, he's not here. We can't carry on this hearing tonight in their absence. I don't think that's fair. I think that
Yeah, but we've never not continued a hearing. I'm curious to know what the law is. If we don't continue it, does
Well,
that mean
even
it's
even if
over?
even if he was here, we would continue it. It's not like we're ready to take a vote or anything tonight. So it's not like you could just say meeting ends, public hearing's closed.
I was hoping we could. Just ask.
And my apologies to members of in the neighborhood. As I said today, I don't find out until Wednesday afternoon whether he's coming or not, and I'm not sure I would have a way to get word out to you. But just you heard May 8th is the next hearing, so I appreciate your patience as you know this thing has been playing out.
Tom, point of clarity. That extension, I think I heard you say, but I'm not quite clear, is commensurate with the number of days that he's asking for the continuance. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, 28 days.
28 days.
And being a 40B, it's totally up to him, not up
Right.
to us. So yeah.
And
Okay.
the letter is explicit. They agreed to extend the timeline. So
Okay.
they're granting that.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to continue this hearing to our May 8th, 2024 meeting and accept the applicant's request for this board to close the public hearing on this application to August 7th, 2024.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Regular voting members, any discussion before we do that? I think we've beat this dead horse, so let's go ahead. Dave,
Aye.
Joe,
Yes.
Chip,
Yes,
Mickey,
Yes,
I vote yes. Matters continued until May 8th. Next matter on the agenda is 32 Nahant Street LLC. Another application for a comprehensive permit under MGL 40B. I thought I saw Mr. Haverty somewhere on the call.
I am here, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Mr. Haverty, as you know, it's our practice not to really discuss matters. We didn't get any material on Friday. I saw that some came in yesterday, but that's too late. We're not, as chair, I'm not going to change our practice to talk about anything that came in yesterday. I don't know if you want to just provide a quick update or if you have anything to discuss other than that material that was submitted too late.
Well, we do. We submitted the traffic study several weeks ago, so you've had that. We have Scott Thornton from Vaness here to go over that traffic study. So if you want, we can have him. Up to you whether or not you want to have the architect Andrew Jones just give a little bit of a presentation as to what changes have been made to the architectural design. If you don't, we can wait till the next meeting.
Okay, I do think I want to wait till the next meeting on that. As it relates to traffic, I'm willing to hear from my fellow board members, but I think it would be more productive if we heard and had final word from TAC on their memo. It's my understanding from the meeting last Friday, you were there as well. I have some notes from that. I didn't think that you're done with that committee as of yet. You don't have the list that the previous application had, but my understanding is that there's going to be another meeting that will include you guys as well.
Yes, there will certainly be some follow-up with TAC. But we're here tonight to present the traffic study that was submitted to this board several weeks ago and to get started on the traffic review process.
All right, I'll open it up to board members. For me, I think it's been our plan all along, and I think we've stated this, that we want to have TAC complete its process, have members of the TAC here when that traffic study is presented to this board and to residents of the neighborhood. I think it's important that we have our subject matter experts here as well, given that you have Mr. Thornton with you. So with that, board members, how are you feeling about this?
I would agree, Mr. Chair. We normally wait till we have our peer review to have a comprehensive discussion of traffic. If we do that tonight, even though we did get the report a few weeks ago, there hadn't been a TAC meeting and they're not done. So we'd be getting sort of one side of the story, the applicants, without the benefit of our peer review and the TAC. So we'd have to have the discussion again anyway, right?
Right.
So that typically
I-
on these larger projects, we wait till we have it all, and then we have a traffic meeting, right? And that's how we've handled just about every project.
Yeah.
Yep. That's exactly where my head is, Dave. So I didn't want to.
Yeah, the only question I would have, Tom, is at the last meeting that they were here, did we outline a game plan for how to proceed? I don't remember that we did, and I don't remember saying that the next meeting was going to be traffic. I mean, when it got continued, I thought it was being continued because they were still working on the plans and they were waiting for TAC's review. And again, I'm with Dave that if we don't have our peer review, then we get one side of it's just spinning wheels at this point.
Yeah. That's exactly was my thought. And I'm looking at my notes from last meeting. We were waiting for them to complete their traffic study. We appreciated the fact that they had cut it from 32 to 26 units and got it down, the height down. There were some discussions about further reductions in density. There was concerns about the parking spaces, the setbacks, the lack of room for tenant amenities. So yeah, I don't think we were done with massing and density as a board yet. So
Yeah.
I think that's still on there. I think we still want to look at the site plan. I think we still want to look at lighting, civil, all those things. But traffic, I'm with you. I'd like our team to be here, the town's team to be here when this is presented. So
Yeah, the other thing that you've already talked about is not having material on Friday. I mean, I haven't even been able to open that, I usually take the weekend to look at things, so it would not be a fruitful conversation for me to even have what was sent to us yesterday presented, because I would have had no time to think about it.
I agree.
And to be clear, that moving or not discussing traffic tonight is really for efficiency purposes. We're going to have to do it again anyways after TAC presents us their memo. So it's not like we're missing out on anything tonight. You'd present us what you presented to TAC, and then TAC would present to us again later. So it doesn't make sense to essentially have a JV TAC meeting tonight.
Agreed. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, traffic aside, I know you didn't want to open up this bucket of worms, but did they do anything with the massing? Has that been even thought about, since we haven't seen this client for a number of weeks? So I hate to have them go another 3 weeks or 2 weeks without even addressing our massing. Can someone speak to that?
I really don't want to open it up, Joe, because I really want to respect the integrity of our rules. We didn't get this till Tuesday. We got another attorney on here that's here all the time. I'm not breaking the rules for him, and I'm not breaking the rules for Mr. Panos if he's going to be putting in things late. So once we do it for one, we got to do it for all. So we can't play favorites, and the rules are the rules for a reason. So, I appreciate the development team showing up. Mr. Harvey, this is an example too. I've been trying to work with Mr. Panos, having a little bit of heads up from you prior to this. We can communicate by email on what you think's going to happen, and I can share with you where the board's at too, so you don't spend the money to bring your consultants here tonight. It's not my intention to waste your time. I don't think it's the board's intention to waste your time, but we weren't ready for traffic and aren't ready for traffic. And I thought I was pretty clear about how we were going to play traffic out. But here we are. I don't think there's much to discuss tonight, other than to create a game plan to bring you back at the next meeting to discuss what was submitted by Phoenix, to continue the discussion on massing. When I find out when the next TAC meeting is, I'm sure you're going to be notified as well. We can try to come up with a game plan for the date that we can bring all those folks to this board, so we're all on the same page on that.
Mr. Chair, I mean, it's your hearing process. You get to control it. So if that's how you want to proceed, that's fine. I would note that, our last continuance request, we specifically stated, that we had submitted a traffic study and we were continuing for the purpose of having that meeting with TAC and being ready to present that at this hearing tonight. So our intention all along was that this was going to be a discussion regarding traffic. If you think that it's more efficient for the board to wait until TAC has had a second opportunity to review this, then that's your call, not mine.
Yeah, I didn't ask for a further continuance, Mr. Haverty, because I understand that you're here. But I do think it's not just efficiency. It's, as members have said, it's important to have the town subject matter experts here, so we're not hearing one side of the story from the applicant.
And
Well,
Tom, is it correct to say that, I mean, TAC is essentially doing our traffic work, most of it for us. So it's not two separate hearings. I think Mr. Haverty, you just said that they'll have a second hearing on it. I think it's really a continuance of the first hearing, and then they'll present their findings to us. It's not, we don't do a parallel, completely separate process. They essentially are our peer review.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it understood what you're saying, Tab, but it's none of us would get anything out of tonight. And essentially, yeah. And as Chip said, I haven't even been able to open the email that was sent to us yesterday. Being an all volunteer board, it's kind of hard midweek.
Yep. So, yeah, I don't want to beat the dead horse or waste anyone else's time here either. So, Mr. Haverty, are we clear what you're going to come back with at the next hearing, which is later this month, 2 weeks from tonight?
Well, I presume at the next hearing, we will discuss the revised architectural submittal.
Yes.
I don't know that we've got another TAC hearing prepared and scheduled, so I don't know that we'll be ready to do traffic then in 2 weeks.
I would say we are not, because TAC has to wrap it up and they usually issue a memo as well. I don't see that happening in 2 weeks. So
Okay.
I think you can leave Mr. Thornton at home 2 weeks from tonight too, and not have to bring him out or pay him or any of that. So
I think he will appreciate that, and I think my client will appreciate that.
If I could just say something, Mr. Chair, Scott Thornton with Vanessa and Associates. I think you're right. We'll need to go back to TAC. Lieutenant Anderson has indicated that'll occur next month. I have been in touch with him this week regarding some of the questions he brought up at Friday's meeting. So that process is underway, but you're absolutely right. I don't think we won't be in front of TAC again until sometime next month.
Yeah. I got to talk to him too, because I have to talk about, when they do some of these studies for some of the larger projects rather, they're not as confined by the 180 days that we have and the deadlines that we have under 40B. So I want to make sure that he's aware of those and those time constraints. The other thing, I think we did ask you to, Mr. Haverty, and if you don't have it tonight, if you could bring it back in 2 weeks. I believe Chip asked the same question relative to your owner. What types of projects have they done? Where are they located? If we could see that, it's good for us to understand, your development team. I think like Vanessa, I think people are familiar with, so, we know who your traffic. And we've dealt with Mr. Sparagas before, so.
So are you just looking for information on projects that the proponent of this project, Scott Green, has been involved in? Or are you looking for information about other members of the development team as well?
Well, if he's the owner, I'm interested in what it is. What other projects he's done, any projects of this scale?
I think for me, Tom, it's this scale, other 40Bs, this scale, towns, that type of thing, where they are, what we could see. I mean, he's
just-
done some projects in town, but they've all been very small houses, duplexes. They haven't been 26 units.
And I'm happy to bring that information back to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
And Mr. Chair, I would add just before this gets continued. Yes, I agree. We should discuss the architectural updates at the next hearing and anything else the applicant team is prepared to present if they provide it the Friday before the hearing. Right?
Right.
There may be other things that they're contemplating in the background besides traffic. And if there are other updates, site plan, architectural plan, anything that is relevant to our ongoing discussions, as long as it's sent to us the Friday before and we have an opportunity to be prepared, then let's table that, get that on the table. And the traffic stuff will wait till both parties agree and you guys can work in the background to confirm, yep, we have what we need. We should be ready at the next hearing. And then we know going in, next meeting is traffic. Right. It sounds like it's outward in May timeframe at least. But I just want to add that if the applicant team has other things for the 24th, they can present those too, as long as we get them in advance, the Friday before.
Yeah, I would also just ask that they go through the chair, so that we can all be prepared and reminded of what the topics can be, because right now, the only thing I think we're discussing is architecture. And the only thing I would focus on that they present is that. Unless somebody tells us we're changing the game plan.
Right, so if we have any updates to the site plans, we will make sure to get those to you in advance of the Friday before the next meeting.
And it's not much there, but there wasn't an ask for an increase in some landscaping. So if you had changes to landscaping as well, I think we'd be amenable to looking at that too, to Dave's point.
Sure. Okay.
Again, as long as it's all in by the Friday before.
Yep.
Okay, so Mr. Chair, we're already continued on extended here to September 11th. I think if we just continue this 2 weeks, I don't know that we need to extend at this time any further unless the applicant wants to. It's again their request, but at the very least, unless there's anything else, I think we can probably continue for 2 weeks. And
yeah, let's keep moving and see where we are.
does that sound okay, Mr. Harvey?
Yes, that's fine with me.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Chair, I move that we continue this matter to our April 10th, 24th, 2024 hearing.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing, seeing none, regular voting members, Dave,
Yes.
Joe,
Yep.
Chip,
Yes.
Mickey,
Yes.
I vote yes. Okay, thank you for that. Again, it'd be good to stay in touch so we don't have misunderstandings, so we don't waste each other's time. That's all.
Sure. Thank you very much. Have a good
Thank
night.
you. You too. Thank you. Okay, next up, new hearings, case 2440. Danielle Luger and Michael Luger, 26 Pheasantwood Ave, an accessory apartment. Mr. McGrail, I believe this is yours.
Yes, Mr. Chair, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, Attorney Brian McGrail, representing Danielle Luger and Michael Luger, who are owners of 26 Pheasantwood Drive in Wakefield. And Michael and Danielle are on the Zoom with me tonight. As you know, I'll do the majority of the presentation, but they are here in case you have any questions of them. Also with me tonight is architect Peter Sandors from Phoenix Architects. Peter drew the plans that were submitted as part of this application. This is an application, as was mentioned, pursuant to section 190-22A1F of the zoning bylaw, requesting an accessory apartment at the property at 26 Pheasantwood Drive. Michael and Danielle plan on living in the main dwelling, the principal dwelling, and Danielle's mom plans on living in the accessory apartment, and her name is Ellen Murphy. I'm going to share my screen if I can, Mr. Chair.
Please do.
Okay. As part of our application, which is showing up on the screen now, we submitted a survey plan. And I did that for the purpose because as we go through the requirements of the special permit, the board is aware that one of the requirements is that the lot meet the lot frontage requirement, and also, I'm sorry, meet the lot width requirement, and also the lot area. And this lot does, it's over 100 feet wide from front to back, so it clearly meets the lot width requirement. And then in the single residence district, in addition to the 100-foot lot width requirement, it's an area requirement of 12,000. This lot is 13,351. So is typical with a lot of these is the special permit is coupled with a variance request to deal with an issue like this, and that is not necessary and not the case with this application.
Mr. McGrail,
Yes,
I appreciate that but it's interesting to me that this is a mortgage site plan, which usually aren't all that accurate.
it is as far as the dimensions of the lot, you know, it might not be for setbacks, but it clearly is for the dimensions. And I also reviewed the deed, Mr. Tabell, to check it, just to make sure. And it has over 100 feet of frontage on Pheasantwood Drive and 100 feet in the rail lot line.
Okay,
So the deed matches the dimensions.
thank you. It is stamped, I give him that.
Bear with me for a second. And I'm gonna bring up Peter's plan. Peter, you're here, right?
Yes, I'm here.
Right. Whoops, let me flip it around.
We're upside down. There we are.
Okay, there we go. Okay. So, Peter, do you want to kind of walk through this and let me just explain the dimensional aspects on the right side, Pete, and then you can kind of talk about what's going on.
Sure.
So as Peter has done here, he always does a good job really laying out the requirements under the bylaw. And what's happening is at the top right, it tells you what the existing principal dwelling is today. 1860 on the basement. First floor is 1550. Second floor is 1100 for a total of 4510. As you can see, the next is the proposed is the same. So this is also a situation where there's no additions being added on to the house. The accessory apartment will be entirely in the basement, and that is evidenced by the next column, which is the proposed accessory apartment, which shows the basement floor of a portion of it, 1605, is going to be for the accessory. None of the accessory is on the first or second floor. And there's a total of 36%. The limit is 25%, and I'll get into the details of that when I go through the requirements in the bylaw. So Peter, can you kind of
Just Brian,
quick
go to the next page.
you got it.
I thought there was a page that highlighted the apartment versus the existing.
No, I don't think so.
No. Okay.
Is
that's
this it,
fine.
Peter? Hold
No.
on. No,
No.
no, that's the
I
first.
thought it was like grade in.
Second, hold on. So let me just go back. Do you have that on your plan, Peter? Do you want to bring that up?
No, this is actually fine. It's pretty
Okay.
straightforward.
Yep, go ahead.
I can talk through it, but this is all here. What you're looking at, and the kitchen is in place, the rooms are in place. There's a door at the top of the stairs that lead down to the basement. That door will remain. We're showing you that there's an exit on the left, there's an exit in the rear of the building, or an entrance. The client's mother would like to use the center room where we put French doors into it, almost using it like a studio, and then keep her living areas around. The area to the far right is utility and is actually needs to become part of the main dwelling, because they need to get down there to the water heater and the burner, etc. But everything to the left of that demarcation where it says utility all becomes part of what we're going to call the accessory dwelling unit.
So there's living area, there's a den, there's a bedroom, there's an office, there's a kitchen, and there's a small mudroom. That's basically it. Everything is there. There's no change to the exterior, no addition.
And
Does that
then,
help?
and yeah, it does. And then to be efficient, you know, this is just the second floor, or really the first floor, which is the main house.
Yep.
Is this cut into a hill?
No.
So there are just no
You know-
windows on the front of the basement?
No, it does. I'm sorry, Brian. It actually
Oh,
does.
on the
It's
back-
going
on the
down
back side it
in the
does, yeah.
back. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
walkout. It's a walkout. Yeah.
Okay, I was like.
Yeah.
There are
No, you're
windows
you're
on
right.
One of the side of this building.
Yeah. The
Okay,
windows are in the back, and but it slopes on the left, so there's a way to get in on the side.
okay.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's, you know, this is the first floor and then the second floor, which is the main house. And that's really, the justification of over the 25%, which is typical when you're using, the majority of the basement with no additions. It just flows right into as part of the house and makes sense. So with all that said, Mr. Chair, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'd like to go through the standards of the special permit.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so there's certain requirements under 19022 A1F is part of the special permit process. And number one talks about it's the intent to allow these to help achieve goals to promote the objectives and standards set forth in the bylaw and to accommodate family needs. Number two, the accessory apartment may be created only within the single family dwellings, which on lots that meet the minimum lot area and width requirements, which we went over. Owner occupancy is required. The owners of the property are required to occupy at least one of the dwelling units, which is going to occur here. And then the family member is going to be, as I mentioned, Danielle's mom, Ellen Murphy. The special permit is only issued to the owner of the property. So if there's any change of ownership or death or removal of any of the occupants, then it has to be ceased to be used as an accessory apartment within 90 days of that occurrence. And as you know, there's also a requirement for a restrictive covenant to be recorded at the Registry of Deeds to put potential buyers on notice that the special permit is not transferable. They would have to apply for a new one if they wanted to utilize it in compliance with the accessory apartment regulations. Number four, the special permit is issued on a year-to-year basis, which we acknowledge, and normally the board will require a bond, but you usually waive that, and we're respectfully requesting that. The next, number five, the accessory apartment must be located in the principal dwelling, and that's happening here. It has to conform to other requirements of the zoning bylaw, which it does, the house today. The apartment size, minimum floor area of the accessory apartment, has to be greater than 300 square feet where that is met, but in no case shall exceed 25% of the habitable area in which it is located, unless in the opinion of the board, a greater or less amount of floor area is warranted by the specific circumstances of the particular building. And we're asking you to make that finding and to allow the 36%. Number seven, the accessory apartment shall not involve the extension or enlargement of the principal dwelling, which is not happening here. Number eight, there shall be no more than one accessory apartment for a total of 2 units per lot, which is the case here. And number nine, the application is subject to the sole approval by your board. So with that said, we would respectfully request the approval of the special permit with the allowance to go over the 25%, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McGrail. For board members, I do have some correspondence from town departments. One from the engineering department of DPW. There's no applicable comments from them at this time. One is from the conservation department. This site is not within the commission's jurisdiction. They have no comment. And then one from Chief Sullivan of the fire department. They have no objection to this project. So that's what we have from our town departments. Questions, comments from the board?
This looks to me like a perfect case for an accessory apartment. So I'm good.
Yeah, I have no
Okay.
problem.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
So just one question or point of clarification, Mr. Chair, through you.
Yep.
Mr. McGrail, paragraph 5 says the dwelling conforms to the other requirements of the chapter. Most notably, we'd be looking for, the dimensional requirements, right? The plan provided, again, looks like a mortgage survey plan, so it doesn't show setbacks, but you're representing that it does meet those requirements of this
Yeah,
paragraph.
it either meets them, and if it doesn't, the house was built. It's over 30 years old and it hasn't had any additions, so they would now be legally non-conforming under the statute anyways.
Okay.
So that, they would either be compliant or legally non-conforming compliant.
Okay. But there is no need, or there hasn't been any previous variance
No,
granted by this board for this property, because there
No.
hasn't been any enhanced additions or any reason to do that. Okay. I just want to be clear on that, because sometimes we get these and there are plot plans that show dimensions and
Yep.
zoning tables, and we see it all laid out in front of us in addition to the other calculations.
I'm
So
just trying to save them the expense of that for an accessory apartment because it was so straightforward.
understood, and I do agree. It is pretty straightforward and seems reasonable. I just wanted to make that clear for the record for everyone here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I always have, Gail's always kind enough to check, and back on March 4th, she had sent me a note. She said, no prior decisions on 26 Pheasantwood Drive. So it has not been before the Board of Appeals before, for sure.
Anything else, board members, before I open it up to the public?
Nope.
Hearing, seeing none, are there any members of the public that would like to speak on this application? If so, please use the raised hand function in Zoom or somehow signal me. Given that there's so few of us left here, I can pretty much see everybody. Hearing, seeing none from the public, back to the board, pleasure of the board. If there is a motion, which this sounds like this is heading for, if we can just be explicit about waiving the bond and
Yep. Duly noted, Mr. Chair. So I move that we grant the special permit in accordance with section 190-22A1F. Based on the plans presented, the site plan or plot plan from Eastern Land Survey Associates dated October 26, 2023, and the architectural plans from Phoenix Architects dated February 28, 2024. That the proposed accessory apartment meets the requirements of our bylaw, with the board waiving the maximum allowable space of an accessory apartment of 25%. We will allow it to be 36%, as shown on the plan, architectural plans. And in lieu of a bond or surety, the applicant will submit a letter annually stating the conditions are the same as what we're approving this evening. And that is the motion and conditions.
Seconded.
motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing, seeing none, regular voting members, Dave,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Chip,
Yes.
Mickey,
Yes.
I vote yes as well. That's unanimous. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Next up, fun stuff. Other matters. Discussion of bylaw changes.
Thanks, Tom.
Joe, yeah.
One quick question. Attorney
yeah.
McGrail? Are you still on?
He is.
I don't know if I want to be, should I hit end right away?
I just didn't want to lose you. Is there anything that you would like us to discuss? Have you been watching all this bylaw stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Chip, he's staying on.
What?
He's staying on. I asked Brian to stay on
Yep.
for this.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say if there's anything he wanted to add in before we broke into this lively, thoughtful discussion.
Yeah.
He's my right-hand man on this.
Okay,
I've been
good.
I've been going to all the meetings, and the bylaw committee's doing a really good job, thorough, and Joe is doing a great job for your board. And I'm saying this as a citizen, because that's why I'm going to those, and it's just it's a long process. It's gonna take a lot of time, right, Joe?
Yes, and this is like 9 pages added to our bylaw. If you look it up, it's 190-10, which is our bylaw, the general requirements for all districts. So, do you want me to share my screen? I can pop it up.
Yeah,
Unless you guys are.
yeah, if you want. First of all, Joe, again, I just want to publicly thank you, your rewards time off in purgatory, I'm pretty sure, for all your time at this. So I know we appreciate it.
Are you sure of that, Mr. Chair? Do you know what he's done in the past?
Yeah, but as you go to this, I've said it before, I'm going to repeat as Joe starts to get into this. I appreciate what's being done. I appreciate the efforts of the town. I appreciate the efforts of Mrs. Bobrowski. But as I look through these and others, I get a little bit nervous that of a cookie cutter approach that's being made to make our town bylaws the same as other surrounding towns. And I think we have some unique characteristics, and so I think we should be alert to that. And specifically, as we get into these performance and design type of standards, I would say I have some real concerns because as a board, what are we struggling with right now is when the state or some like 40B takes away our discretion. I would have concerns that performance standards, design standards, things like that are going to take away our discretion to look at each neighborhood in the Wakefield differently, to look at each site differently. I have experience in my day job where these design guidelines, these type of performance standards, they don't, in my experience, they haven't been greatly successful. And those are more urban areas. I agree. I admit to that. That's Boston, Cambridge, Somerville, where I'm seeing most of that because it cuts both ways. One, you could have a project that you could check the box on every one of these performance standards, and it's a project that you don't like or we wouldn't want it to go forward. On the other hand, you could have a great project on a renewal site that can't meet some of these standards. Look at the sites that come to mind that we've recently done are the one on Main Street across from the AmeriCal Civic Center. That's a site that, of course, we wanted to see renewed. If you looked at the Salem Street site that we just did, renewal there was important. And, you can get into a situation where they can't meet some of these. And are you allowed to move forward with it? I don't know. And again, to my other point, if they meet them all and we don't like the project, we're setting the town up for litigation. So I think this is an area where we got to wade in very carefully, in my opinion. And our discretion's being hacked away. As I said, we already got the 40B problems. Look at the MBTA zoning that's coming our way. I'm nervous about that. Loss of local control, and this would be loss of control of our board, would be kind of self-inflicted by changing our bylaws. So I don't want to, that's probably more than you wanted to hear, but that's generally where my head is on this as we begin this type of process. So I don't know if anyone, before Joe gets into the particulars, if anyone else wants to comment on kind of the general, idea of these bylaw changes. So, Chip.
Yeah, I have the exact thoughts you had, and not from experience, but just from a couple years on this board. We always claim we don't do anything that's precedent setting, right? And as far as I'm concerned, performance standards are precedent setting, right? So we say just because we made a decision on one case doesn't mean we're going to make that decision always. So if these are, my question was, if these are becoming binding standards, then I have a real problem with them. If they're suggestions, kind of like the master plan is a suggestion of where housing should go, it's not something we can follow, but it's something we can look at. But it kind of felt to me like as soon as we put it as a performance standard or a standard in the bylaw, we can't vary from that. It's our rule.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I have a problem with all of this, having read the 9 pages.
But my reaction to that is these bylaws should be enabling legislation, and our practices should be quite different right? Where we get into the nitty gritty in our daily, as we adjudicate each of these individual cases. I don't think we should have our hand tied by a bylaw standard. So
And I thought is that what this is doing? My question is this when it's a bylaw standard, is this a rule that has to be followed? Or is it a suggestion? Like the master plan is?
well, I'm just reading Joe's first page, 6.3.2. Applicants for special permits or site plans approval for non-residential or multifamily uses shall comply with these performance standards. That's pretty definitive to me.
Well, we can, Tom, again, we can change all this. We can word it the way we want to word it to work in our favor. I mean, being on the board for 4 years, looking through all this, I feel like we do this anyways, but it feels like, to me, I guess I'm the opposite of what you guys are looking at this. I feel like it gives us a roadmap to go by, but I feel like a lot of these that we, if I scroll down, the lighting, we talk about this during meetings, and then I feel like if this is out there, at least we won't have to ask them to, to talk about indoor or outdoor lighting. It's already here.
Joe,
So maybe, Joe,
I hear you.
if you could walk through it now with your thoughts.
Yeah.
Now that
And the way I would answer that, Joe, too, it's that nuance that Chip was trying to ask that question. Like, if these are performance standards that they shall comply, we have no room. If we developed our own guidelines for lighting or something, those are things we would use in practice that wouldn't tie our hands and completely take away our discretion. So to your point, there's a middle ground. That's why I say, like, I deal with legislation. So you want enabling legislation that's high level, that sets some things, but you want your practices and other things. You want the discretion to be able to use this. So these words are going to matter. I don't know if either of the attorneys on the, Joe, I want you to walk through it but Mickey or Greg or even Brian.
Sorry, similar experience to you, Tom. A lot of it municipal, but things like whether it be lead standards, which I'm all for, but nobody can say you have to. But you certainly should get credit if you touch some of these boxes. In Boston, there are workplace hiring standards. There are transportation access plan standards. I like some of the things here about the lighting standards and blah blah blah. But I read something about property prices, and we're getting into that sort of stuff. It just seems to go a little bit too far, and then it's telling this board what they can or can't do. We're seeing it already with the 40B kind of rammed down our throat, as awful as that sounds, but this is a lot of what is happening here. I haven't been at those meetings, and that's my my issue, but this seems to be a little tighter than it needs to be.
Again, this was Mark's suggestion from his last review from Medford, and this is what they adopted now. He explains it to us. He uses this term. We use it as a sushi menu. We could take some of this off, add some. We don't have to use any of it for all. If you don't feel comfortable with any of it, then we leave it all out. And I bring that back to him and explain what your thoughts were. That it's kind of limiting our ability to go through with a project.
The dark sky standards and stuff. I mean, they're all pretty much.
I just thought this is what we talked about anyways. We talked about lighting. We talked about noise.
Right, but just go back a second, Joe. You're right. We do talk about it. Go back a little bit. Right here. Pole mounted fixtures. Pole mounted exterior light fixture types shall be mounted no higher than 20 feet above grade. Well, what happens if we want one in a parking lot that needs to be 25? See, this is where I'm going. Like, great suggestion. We should try to keep it under 20. But if this is a standard that we have to agree to, then I don't like it.
Mhm.
So can I
would-
make a suggestion?
Yeah.
It might make sense, and maybe to do it offline to everybody to go through and see what makes sense to actually keep in here. If it pares it down too much, and there's like two things that we, definitely want to prohibit or require, then maybe we don't want to do this at all. But if there's things like I saw something, if you go up, Joe, and something about like light shows or something like that. And I think that goes with, our used car dealerships have balloons and all the wavy arm guys. Like, yeah, maybe that is something we want to keep. If there's enough stuff that you want to keep from to have it actually be restricted or required, whatever, the wording says, then maybe it makes sense to do this. But if there's, and to take out the thing, Chip, like you just said, like, we want flexibility around lighting poles. Okay, take it out of here. But if there's stuff in here that through our combined years on the board, makes sense to either require or prohibit per the language of this, then, it might make sense to actually, have these design standards. I don't think looking at one or two paragraphs helps you understand the entire impact of, what did we say this is? 11 pages.
Yeah, I guess I would love, Greg, for you or Joe or Mickey to say, if it's a standard, does that mean we can't waver from it?
I don't think you want to include
Bylaw.
anything. Yes, there's stuff you can vary, but I don't think you want to include simple guidelines in the bylaw.
No.
That's not what a bylaw is. If you want to have your own sort of board policy at the time that you can change, then yeah, you can have that. What I'm saying is,
is this a bylaw as a bylaw that we look to and say, okay, I'm going to just harp on that one, that 20-foot pole. Sorry, you can't have that done. Is that what this is? Or is this, you should try not to have 20-foot poles?
We can add into this, that's
No, but I'm
discretion.
asking, what is being presented? That's what I'm asking.
it's presented as a bylaw.
Okay.
All right, and what I'm saying is, I think you should stick to it in thinking about it as a bylaw.
Okay. That's
If
what
there's stuff you want to take out because we need the discretion, in my mind, go for it. If there's stuff though that we even want to put in, I don't know if there's stuff that we've talked about over the years, like we want to get rid of those waving arm guys, put it in here. But if it gets down to where it's just like, we only have like 3 things, then it doesn't make sense to have it at all. You know what I mean? Like, but I think you need to think of it as a bylaw. It's not a guideline. It's not a roadmap. It's the bylaw. I understand you theoretically could put language in to say, work towards this, but that's not what a bylaw should be. That could be an internal board policy.
That's why I wanted to have this discussion first, because that's exactly what I am. The difference between our practice and policy and a bylaw is massive. And so this is why the bylaws, to me, I'm alarmed. My radar's up and I have some significant concerns about it. Because the other part is too, we deal with this all the time. I just get nervous in other people that aren't involved in real estate, aren't involved in these things all the time. Say, well, why wouldn't you have these stuff? So it's a tricky issue. A couple of us have weighed in here just before Joe walks through. I'd like to hear, Dave hasn't said anything, or Kasumi, or, Mickey, if you have more, Brian, if you want to weigh in here, feel free. This is an open debate. This is an open discussion.
Just like the outdoor, just what we have in front of me right now. The outdoor lighting shall be designed to provide the minimum intensity needed at any particular time. I mean, what is that? that is, somebody could come in and say, I don't want any light, or turn off, you don't get any signs, or, I mean, it just touches too many things.
Again, that could be taken out. I mean, this was not written by this town. It was written for Medford,
No, I don't think it's, I mean, they're.
It's a lot of stuff that he put in here compared to what we had. We had a paragraph. This is what we had. All this right here. This is what we had. Two paragraphs. So it went from 2 paragraphs to 9 pages. So it's a lot of stuff. I don't think we could get it. I don't even know if we'll get through it tonight on this meeting. It's just, I mean, we spent 20 minutes, half an hour just on lighting. I mean, now we get noise, site development standards, site design, grading, topsoil, irrigation, we talk about pedestrian vehicle, traffic management, driveways, curb cuts. What else? Maintenance. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and that's that's halfway through. So, I mean, we're meeting again next Tuesday. We don't need to have this ready. I just wanted to just kind of get your thoughts on it, because I've sent the email out. Everyone's busy. I figured I knew it was a quick meeting tonight, so I wanted to at least hear what you guys had to say, so I can bring it back to the bylaw committee on Tuesday and I, and ask him and kind of, stress your thoughts to Mark, and, we can revisit it. We don't have to spend hours on it tonight,
Yep.
but
No, that's why I want to hear people's like bylaw versus practice, high level thinking, as opposed to getting into each paragraph here where their head's at. And Joe, I'm happy to go to that meeting if it's helpful as well. I know you've been doing a great job, but I don't want to step on your toes, but if it's helpful to have
no,
someone
it's-
there.
what you said tonight is a lot more than I thought of, because I looked at this and I go, wow, this is what we've been talking about this for the last 4 years. I've been on this meeting. This is great. This is 10 pages of standards that people now have to look at, so we don't have to keep talking to them about, hey, your light poles are too low, you're too much lighting over here, or, you just go, you can point them in the right direction. Go see 6.3 and then come back to us. I mean, to me, that's just an easy way to get these people to follow a route and a roadmap, other than coming to us and then we have to think about these things, and then 2 weeks later, oh, we forgot about the driveways, we forgot about this, and and then bring it up again. At least you can kind of like point them in the right direction. That's why I like this bylaw committee, because whatever's in there, it's concrete. You can send them there and give them a direction, other than it's up to the board's discretion. And what's your discretion? Oh, this is how I feel today. I don't want that kind of light. I know you talk about different projects at different, have different, standards, but to me, this is kind of, I thought it was a lot of information, but
Yeah.
I also
No.
see your point. I didn't see the law part of it, the lawyer part getting, pigeonholed in a certain area, but so.
No. So Dave, I see your hand.
Yeah, I was just gonna add, again, generally agree with the sentiment here. Um, at a high level, and yes, it's a lot, and I generally okay with having applicants consider these standards with applications. It puts it all out there and they have to consider them. But maybe in that first paragraph there, because some of these do say that the special granting authority or planning board may require this or may do that. Maybe at the top level, there's there seems to there, and we have it in other parts of the bylaw currently, where this board or the special permit granting authority has discretion to vary things. We just did it on the accessory apartment. It can be over 25% if we deem it applicable or it makes sense for the project, right? So yes, these are design standards, and there's 100 things here for an applicant to have to consider, and it lays it all out there. To your point, Joe, but at the end of the day, I think there still needs to be some discretion from the special permit granting authority or this board that we could vary these things if it made sense for the project or the neighborhood of the town. right? That it isn't absolute concrete can't without a variance or something else to go along with it, that there's some discretion with the board. And maybe that's in that top paragraph, and then it sort of carries through whatever ones in the details get adopted, you know, so.
Dave, the only thing with that though is we know to get things varied, they have to walk through one, here's whatever the site plan, but then walk through the standards for a variance. As we all know, if you add all this, that's going to be an incredible amount of requests for variances. So the of seemingly small, not smaller, but a lot of aspects of a project. So having to walk through the standards for a variance for every single aspect, we got to aesthetic standards, we got to really going to want to walk through the standards. Yeah, it's not more detrimental to the neighborhood to change an aesthetic standard.
Right, no, I'm trying to avoid that. I'm saying
Yeah.
if there's discretion built into this, that we can vary things within the context of these design standards, if it made sense for the project, then it avoids them having to request a variance for some aspect that it doesn't meet, right? Or can't be done, or whatever the case might be. I would want to avoid that at all costs, as long as the board has some discretion to allow things to be taller, wider, bigger, whatever, if it made sense. Give us some
So
discretion
Dave, that's
within these
why
standards. Yeah,
it can't be in the bylaw. That's
Yeah,
my
right.
bigger point. It
That's my
can't be in the
point.
bylaw for that reason. It has to be our practice or our something from this board and not in the bylaw. So that's to me the major point. But Kasumi, I see your hand up too.
well, but our current special permits says when they request a special permit, they have to submit plans and they have to do X, Y, and Z and present landscaping and parking and lighting. It says they have to present all that stuff.
Yep.
Right? So it lays it all out there in our bylaw, and then we look at it and make determinations about what's appropriate, what's valid. No, you got to make this better, whatever. So we deliberate those points, but they have to provide all that information. And there's, again, limited design standards maybe that this is now expanding on. But I mean, our bylaws do lay out a lot of requirements on, information that is required to be considered for a special permit.
So I think that's where we have to be careful in language, though. You're talking about special permit, but you said discretion to vary. A variance is different than a special permit.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm not trying to nitpick, but that's a very different scenario. If we're going to come through and try to vary every one of these, we're going to be sitting here for 4 hours on every project.
On something we think sometimes is a good project. Yeah. So I'm sorry, Kasumi. Go ahead.
So I deal with all this like as a designer, interior designer, like I deal with accessibility standards and like plumbing code, like electrical code and all this regulations, and like I have to go through, and then I don't mind having all this stuff, but some of, like, for example, like going back to the light fixture sections, like I think that Greg was saying like the wording has to be like more careful. So some of like let's see, like light intensities, like I'm fine with that, like to meet the dark sky standard, but like the chip was saying the wall sconces and like the light on the pole, like they say like 15 feet on the wall or 20 feet on the pole, like that has to be not the actual numbers, but it has to be more of the wording of like a proportionally correct to the proposed building, kind of, because like wall mount fixtures 15 feet is like 2.5 stories high. So if we have 5 stories high, that means you can't have any fixtures like above like second half of the second floor up. But like it might look nice, like if you have it on third floor wall or the fourth floor wall. So like instead of saying like 15 feet, it has to be like a different way of saying, I don't know, part of the project. So like we have more control of what the project looks like and not regulated by this like definite numbers.
Towns in general have, I mean, all of our projects go through a comment period from all the peer experts in the town, the building inspector, the TAC, the police, blah, blah. And then you layer upon that public comment, if there is any, and then you layer upon that this board's discretion. And that covers pretty much all of this. And Joe, I hope you're not taking any of this as pushback. Being on that board and that committee is a ton of work, and I know it is. It seems like there's a lot of guardrails that are out there without saying if you screw around with hours of operation, we'll shut you down, things like that, or we won't give you a permit. No, we'll tell you to keep to your hours of operation, but maybe it's the nature of the zoning process here, just how we've been following it in the past. But this dots it down too much. That's all.
Mickey, like I said, I brought it to the board because most of you guys have been on it longer than I have, and your thoughts, highly respected. So I again, this is a 2-3 year process. We're not, he's got it to draft 1. He expects it to be draft 2, draft 3, draft 5, draft 8. So we're only on draft 1 here. So it's not like, we're at a deadline.
No, but I'm sorry to interrupt you, but my experience with these types of processes is once they're in a draft, they're hard to get out. So if we don't like something, it's got to happen early, because the more they advance in these types of processes, the more difficult it is to remove something or to add something.
Tom,
So
I can bring it Tuesday. We're gonna.
what time's that meeting?
Next Tuesday, we're having a meeting at 7 o'clock. If you want to join and explain what you explained to me, and we could just take it all out. I mean, we can explain to Mark, we don't want it, and that's it. And he's fine with that. It's what we want, not what he wants. He's just there to help us and guide us in the right direction. If we don't want any of this, take it out.
Yeah. No, that's why I said I appreciate what everyone's trying to do here. It wasn't like this guy was forcing anything or.
No, he brought it up, and I thought it was great, I honestly, but now that I hear from where you're coming from, yeah, take it out.
Joe, have you got any, or has this even been discussed? Have you got any sort of feedback or thinking of where, because obviously, the view of ZBA members is one thing, but do other people want to take control away? Like what are the thoughts?
No, I mean, Theo has it on his plate too, to bring back to his board. I haven't seen him in any of the last couple meetings, so I don't know if he's gone anywhere with it. Because we were gonna set up a meeting, like a subcommittee meeting with us, with me, maybe Tom, and Theo and his group of the planning board, and talk about this, but it just, no one's schedules could align, so we just kind of went our separate ways. I figured it, like I said earlier, it was a good night tonight to bring it up.
But maybe we got to find a way, because even amongst our discussion, I know I laid out where I think, but I heard different degrees of where people were too. So I think people are in some general agreement, but I don't want to. I think I want to be sure that the entirety of the board's opinion is reflected, as opposed to, as opposed to just a couple of us. But I don't mind, like Joe, I'll have that meeting and I'll be clear on that with, if you want to meet with Theo and someone else too. That's fine.
Yeah, again, the next meeting is Tuesday. I believe we're talking, this is gonna be brought up. But I mean, I do like that the discretion, but like to Greg's point, if we can't put that in there because this is a bylaw and you just can't have a discretion of a bylaw, then I guess we just leave the whole thing out. I mean,
But
I'm not
what-
saying you can't. You can put anything you want in.
No, I know, but
I'm
it kind of
saying,
it defeats the purpose of a bylaw, right? If you say, here's your bylaw, but here's the law, but you know, the law is 55, but if you want to do 70, go do 70. Then it's not a law. I get
Yeah.
you.
I'd love to hear from Citizen McGrail.
And the only thing I'll say to that, Joe, is it doesn't mean just because it's not in the bylaw that this board can't put out some preferences and some guidelines. To your point, if you'd like to be able to point new projects coming in somewhere, that can be something that's done by the board as opposed to being the law of the land in a bylaw.
Yeah, I hear you.
So,
What's the process in the end? Like the council votes on it or town meeting?
It goes to town meeting.
yeah. That's
And
why I
we
said
vote.
these type of nuanced discussions, that's why I said having the right language that arrives at town meeting is going to be important because in that forum, who knows where it's going. I just see Mr. McGrail's hand up, Brian. Did you want to weigh in here?
Please.
If I could just make a comment.
You muted. You went
You
back
got
on
muted
mute.
yourself, Brian.
Thank you. No, thank you. My comment was, as a citizen, I agree with everything that's been said. You know, I just don't think we're a cookie cutter town. You think of all the projects that this board has done over the years, not one project that's come in has gone out the same way, for the better. And, you know, if like you go up to, Joe, can you scroll up just as an example?
Up or down?
Right there, like, on the signage, for example. Right here, okay, outdoor signs. Outdoor light fixtures used to illuminate an outdoor sign should be mounted on the top of the sign structure, otherwise restricted to prevent uplight. A lot of times, you know, your board decides you want uplight, or you want, you know, halo, or, you know, depending on the sign. I mean, that's just one example. And then if you scroll down, and you know, I think, right there, Joe, like hours of operation, you know, you just deal with hours of operation. You condition that depending on the project and you condition deliveries. Noise standards probably conflicts. We have a noise bylaw in town that deals with noise limitations. Hours of operation you deal with. I think it's just, I would just say, this was only given, I think, and Joe's right, as an example to start thinking about this, right, Joe? This wasn't
Exactly.
given like, hey, this is what we want you to do, you know, so just to think about the possibility of some of these things, but I would just be, as the chair said, just be really careful not to make things cookie cutter. Because, you know, you will get people that with projects that you don't want that are gonna say, you know what, I dotted all the i's and crossed all the t's, I've met all your guidelines. And, you know, what's the problem? And I think you're gonna own it. With not having a lot of flexibility. I think you guys already stated all that, so I'm really just saying what you said.
And only one other thing as we think about this, just to sort of color how we think about it is, you know, we mentioned this board already does X, this board already does Y. You know, not to toot our own horn here, but I think in this current composition, as it may be only for a few more weeks, is a strong board.
Oh, wait, in a couple more weeks, guys, he just said it's not gonna be a strong.
It will not, it will no
That's
longer be a
exactly what I
strong
just
board.
heard.
But yeah, it's a strong board. So, you know, we playing sort of devil's advocate here. We do all these things now, but what's to say, you know, in the future that it evolves and we don't have a strong board. So then just as we think about it, there might be some sort of, maybe not even middle of ground, but 1/3 of the way there ground that there is some things we want to keep in here that are, you know, sort of must-haves, where the rest can be open to discretion. just something to think about. I don't know where that leads us on actual standards in here, but
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that was said. I mean, I'll go back to Mark and you know, explain what you guys mentioned to me tonight and go from there. You know, and maybe other towns have had that have the same thoughts that you've shared with me tonight, and maybe he can say, hey, take it out. I have towns that don't even use this, so
I will tell you that I think, and I will pat ourselves on the back a little bit, that our zoning board gets far more involved than other zoning boards in the way we design or redesign or work with applicants. I can tell you, Wellesley, you're like one and done, right? They either like it or they don't. You either get accepted or no. They don't give a lot of chance to come back and talk and work and working groups. It's brutal. I mean, they don't believe in variances. It's the zoning and that's it. I think we're really good about working an applicant through the process, and I think we do end up with some pretty darn good things. But I hear Greg loud and clear, because it always does concern me. We've had different boards that have been good. We've had town councils that have been good and town councils that haven't been good. We've been very fortunate for the last 20 years that I've been on the board. We've had great boards. We've had great people. So I'm looking at this for us and our board, but I think Greg brings up a real valuable point too, that maybe there's something in there that's that protects us from when people get tired or move on and we don't have as good a board, or the town council doesn't select as good people like Kazumi and Mickey and everybody that's on there now. So I hear everybody, but I also am very concerned about having our hands tied.
If I could just add one thing, Mr. Chair, just
Yeah, fire away.
if you are gonna have standards, I mean, you really gotta make sure they apply to us. Like, for example, look at replication. It's on the screen. Clearing of vegetation and alteration of topography shall be replicated with native vegetation planted in disturbed areas as needed to enhance or restore wildlife. You gotta kind of context that. I mean, if it's a project in downtown Wakefield, you don't want wildlife. So, you gotta make it applicable. Otherwise, it's just a standard that someone say, well, what, it just applies to everything. So you really gotta, this needs a lot of work to make sure if you're gonna have standards, where they're applicable, where they're not. Some might be applicable to the industrial district, some might be applicable to the business, some might be applicable to residential. But depending on where they are, if you're doing a multifamily on Foundry Street, I don't think you want, wildlife, and maybe the vegetation you're getting rid of is it's weeds. So, what's a native vegetation on Foundry Street? No, the way you guys do it, you have a landscape plan, and if you don't like it, you tell the landscape architect to change the plants to something that you want. So that's all. If you're gonna have them, they just need to be really thought out. And as was said, not just a cookie cutter from another town. And I don't think it was, I'm picking on that one section. It wasn't the intent, it wasn't Mark's intent or anybody's intent to say, oh, this fits Wakefield. This was just given as as Joe said, as a place to start thinking about what might fit for our town, right, Joe?
rightly said. Yep.
Yeah, so this was not like, oh, this works for you guys. This is not the context that this is being presented.
Well, that's why-
He's very easy at these meetings. It's you ask him a question, he'll give his 2 cents. But if we want it out, he's like, all right, I'll take it out right now. He's not like, no, you should have this. He's like, if you want it in, I'll put it in. You don't want it in, I'll take it out. He's not.
Joe, what's the bottom line of all of this? What is your group trying to do? And who thought it was necessary to change our bylaws?
It's something that we do every 7 years.
Who's the chair?
Dan Lieberman.
Okay.
Well, it's a review, right? It's not necessarily change. It's a review. So
Well, it's a review, but yeah, well,
yes,
I
a
guess
review is
to-
going to have changes, but it's every 7 years. You don't say.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's a review of the total bylaw every 7 years, but we're doing the section 190, the zoning actually. This doesn't happen every 7 years. This happens every 20 or 30. So we hired the town of Wakefield hired Mark to just take care of the zoning part. The bylaw review committee has been dealing with every bylaw from beginning to end, and now we've done everything. We've done the whole bylaw except 190. Now we're concentrating on section 190, the zoning aspect of it, and that's where Mark comes in. He deals with the zoning part. So, we hired him to take care of this section and write as many drafts as it takes to get it passed. Like I said, we're at draft 1. It goes to, draft 1 doesn't go to the town yet. It still comes back to the bylaw review committee to review it, and to, narrow it down to get it better to a draft 2 to draft 3 or whatever. And then once we feel comfortable, we'll bring it to the town. But we don't think it's going to be till it definitely is not going to be this town meeting. That's in 3 weeks. So it's going to be either November or the following April. So we're still a year away of this part. We've been bringing other aspects. Tom Mullen has been bringing other aspects of the bylaw review committee that we've been through all the other sections. He a little bit at a time. Tom Mullen talks, brings those issues to the town meeting. So this section 190 won't be to the town for, like I said, another year.
Okay. That's helpful, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Oh, you're welcome. So again, I can, I got some notes. I'll bring it up on Tuesday when we have our next meeting. Tom, if you want to join, you're welcome to. I'll send you the link if you're busy.
Yeah, if you would do
no
that,
worries.
that'd be great.
All
Yeah,
right.
if I can be there, I will be, for sure.
All right. And that's it.
If not, let me think about it. I might ask Mullen. If folks had thoughts, as long as we're not deliberating, not online, let me ask Mullen, if you guys want to submit thoughts, or maybe you can just show up to or submit thoughts as citizens.
How is, I mean, this has nothing to do, with our zoning board. This is a conversation about bylaws. I mean,
Okay.
I don't think we, in my
Yeah.
humble opinion, we don't break any open meeting laws, because we're just talking about what Joe brought to us.
No, I mean that, so folks, if, like, I didn't feel like Dave was in the exact same spot as I was, so I would want him to be able to voice his positions. And I can certainly pass them along, and Joe can pass them along, but I don't want to, I'm just one guy on the board, right? So if I go, I'm still just one guy on the board, and Joe's still just one guy. We try to share everybody's thoughts, but I don't want to misrepresent anybody or say this is how, quote, the board feels, right? When people, I think there's a little bit of a spectrum of thought. At least I'm walking away with that. So just trying to think of a way to capture everybody's thinking, if they wanted to weigh in. That's all. Outside of this meeting, right? In between now and Tuesday.
Probably go to the next bylaw committee meeting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying. We just go as citizens to the next bylaw committee. So, okay.
I'll send you guys the link, and I won't waste your time. If we're not going to talk about this, then I won't even waste your time. I'm pretty sure next meeting is next Tuesday's meeting. I got to look. I just got the invite today. If Mark's not going to be there, then it's not. Then I wouldn't even waste your time going there. It would be
Okay.
best if Mark was at the meeting.
Okay.
And I'll have to know how many go because I'll have to post it, I think. I think if there's more than 2 people, I have to,
But we're not going as the zoning board.
And we're not discussing the
If talking
matter.
about 23 Morrison Road.
okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like town meeting. We can all just walk into town meeting and you don't have to post, right?
All right.
Not a
At the
zoning
beginning
board.
of all this, Dan told me I had to post it if more than 2 of you went, but
When's Dan your boss?
I'll find out. I'll find out.
It's easier to get forgiveness than permission sometimes. Gail.
Yeah.
All right. So
All
with
right,
that,
I'll go as a member of the permanent building committee. I guarantee you there won't be more than one of me there.
all right. That was other matters. Moving on, we got clerk and board comments.
Good thing Joe's the clerk, because he's got nothing else to say.
I got nothing.
So just an
No,
update on that.
I can dial in Jim if you want. I can call Jim up.
Yeah.
He's not in bed already. Yeah. That 400 Audubon, the storage place, did they request a permit? Do they have a building
Just
permit?
today. I permit today.
Okay, have they said what they're gonna do on the highway side?
Well,
'Cause
I
the last email I
took
said
it down.
that they were asking, oh, does that have to come down? Well, it's a temporary banner. By its very nature, it's a temporary banner. It's gotta
Right.
come down. And
And
that's
I
gonna
told
put-
them that. Yep, I
Okay.
told them.
Well,
And
I
they just
just,
got the permit today, the sign's being made up.
okay, but the plan they,
the
we
sign
approved
made.
doesn't show a sign on that side, so when the banner comes down, the old business name is
Bus-
going to be there. So
Have to take it down.
they'll have to take the sign down. Okay. All right, just curious, because I, drive on the highway, I'm like, oh yeah, it's still there.
Since you mentioned that last time, Dave, I see it every time I go by. I cannot not think about it.
Yeah,
If
a
you
month
go
from now,
faster
it'll
than
be,
80, you can't look, so just start flooring it.
and a month from now, it'll be like flapping because it'll start to break apart and it'll look crappy. And so, all right, well, we'll keep an eye on it, see if the whole thing does come down, because that's what we would expect to happen. All right. That's all I had.
Anybody else?
I
Anyone
just
else?
have one
Yeah.
question. If I don't know, well, hold on, is Brian even still here? If
Yeah.
oh, speaking of wacky flailing arms people, I don't know, and I don't think we have any say, but again, another spot I drive by every day. We all know Foundry Street, Harvard Mills, is now leasing. Is your client okay with getting rid of those ridiculous waving flag things out front? I think I asked one time before and they replaced with new ones instead of just saying, I mean, we know they're leasing. The lights are on. Everyone gets it. They look ridiculous. It looks, I mean, in my mind, it makes the apartments look cheaper than they are.
I also don't know that they're legal.
That's my point. I don't know.
I don't, they're a sign, they're an advertisement. They're temporary in nature. I think if Ben wanted to call him and say, you're not allowed to have those, he probably could.
I don't know why it bothers me so much, but every time I'm pulling out there, it's just waving right at me.
I'll try to reach out to somebody, Greg.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, I'll probably, I'll do my best because, the development.
Yeah.
The people I dealt
Yeah.
with, how these projects work. They still.
Yeah.
gotta come in and look at this.
No, understood.
But I can get in touch with them to touch base with somebody there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Brian,
Could be-
since you're still on, sorry, that apartment buildings that we approved on Salem Street, the one that's not going up, did they sell that land or are they done with that? The one like across from 544 Salem Street?
Yeah, they're putting that property to another use, Joe. I'm actually getting ready for the application on that. I'm gonna be submitting probably next week. And so, which I can tell you, I mean, it's gonna be an application. They decided not to do an apartment. They're gonna do a indoor pickleball facility.
Oh.
They spent all that money on that and then they're just.
So you'll be seeing an application, which is not appropriate to discuss, but the application that will be coming. I won't give you any detail on what it is, except for what the use is gonna be requested.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Anybody else? If not, we've got very professional, well-done minutes to approve.
I wouldn't go that far.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the meeting minutes of our March 27, 2024 meeting as accurately and expertly prepared by our board administrator, Gail Conway.
This can be a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Okay,
Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn.
great. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your patience. And Joe, thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for your guys' help. I mean, that gives me a lot of information to go back with, but I'll send you guys a email if need be.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks, Joe.
thank you.
See ya.
Good night, all.